All right, in this video, I'm going to describe the exact schedule that built my physique. This is not necessarily the easy method, this is the simple method. This is the method that comes after 15 years of practicing in the gym, various disciplines to remain ripped for, years on end, decades on end, hopefully. I'm gonna describe my method in 3 different phases because I perceive that over the last 15 years, there have really been 3 different phases that I've gone through ultimately to arrive at what I consider to be ease. My hope for you is that ultimately in your fitness journey, you can arrive at a place where you enjoy using your body, that pursuing aesthetics, pursuing strength, it's not something that comes from desperation, but rather a place of flow, a place of real enjoyment. Ultimately, if you can have passion for the process, consistency is gonna be something that is natural for you. And if we can get to that point, not only is leveling up gonna be something that feels flow-based, it's gonna feel enjoyable. It's not gonna be something that you feel like you're ever going to burn out from. And really burnout, right, giving up. And if you've watched my videos on the emotional cycles of change, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. It's gonna feel therapeutic, challenging yourself, right? Reaching the next level of your personal journey. It's gonna be something that you really want to do. So let's jump into it. I have never done things very conventionally, which hopefully is a benefit to you because getting jacked and improving your overall health is not a very conventional approach to living life in the first place. The conventional way of living is 40 to 50 years of living in a state of mediocrity followed by 10 to 20 years of wishing that you would have done things over again if you'd only had more energy. Now, I'm not saying it's just as easy to improve your health, to improve your physique when you're 70 as it is when you're 20. The reality is that your muscles atrophy, your cells become more resistant to insulin. So your potential for debilitating illnesses like diabetes or heart disease is increased, and your ability to improve your strength, improve your overall health is decreased. And so while time is always running out, you always have the opportunity to improve your discipline, and discipline is gonna be 90% of the battle for any of us. By the end of this video, my goal is that you will walk away with an exact strategy to improve your physique in the next 6 to 12 months and become a 1% health and fitness practitioner, which means you will have a 1% physique in the next 6 to 12 months, assuming that you do exactly what I tell you to do in this video. Now, below this video, there is a link to the article that I wrote before I created this video. And so you guys can tell me if I'm doing a good job or not, but the bottom line is I'm hoping that this video can be a little bit more of a raw version of the article that I wrote attached to it. Which being said, if you want the exact step-by-step of what to do, I am going to try to give you the raw breakdown in this video and towards the end of this video specifically, but the article will have the map essentially. I want to begin by sharing a story of somebody who started working with me, and they explained to me that they had a time crunch. Essentially, she told me that she needed to lose 30 pounds for her sister's wedding, which was 3 months away, but she added this caveat that was essentially, if I don't reach my goal in that 3-month period of time, I don't think I'm ever genuinely going to be able to commit myself to this process of getting fit long term. The first thought that came to my head was give up. And I didn't say that to her, of course, but I want to share this story with you because I think that one of the key things to understand if you haven't been able to reach your fitness goals in the past is the mindset that is necessary to create this transformation for yourself. But more than that, to hold on to the transformation for yourself for the rest of your life. This is an identity shift. And in this video, we are going to talk about the specifics of what you have to do, the action items, right? The exact workouts, the exact dietary processes. But the reality is that there are infinite strategies that any person can follow. And you're probably going to use tens, if not hundreds of these strategies throughout your journey, right? Throughout your journey of trying to get in great shape. Every single one of them can work. The question is whether or not you're going to be able to do the work. And what's going to determine that is whether or not you shift your identity and whether or not you shift that identity for the long term. And so this is straight out of my article, right? If you don't plan to do this for life, your results will be slow and frustrating. If you do accept that this is a series of changes you're going to make for the rest of your life, the results will come more quickly than you ever imagined. So that being said, yap session out of the way, let's jump into the first phase. So I got into fitness pretty much from stage 0. My parents had me doing swim lessons when I was a little kid. I wasn't necessarily forced like a lot of people, but I was invited to do a lot of different sports growing up. At a very young age, this created for me a value in physical activity. My father is a Tai Chi instructor. He's always been a person that went to the gym regularly, so this was something that was ingrained in me at a very young age. Same thing with eating healthy. I didn't experience fast food until I was 11 years old, and my parents took us to KFC for the first time because I saw these commercials for popcorn chicken on Cartoon Network, and I just was obsessed. I had to try it. But until that point, my parents were super resistant, and they did not introduce us any kinds of fast food. Maybe snacks occasionally, maybe candy occasionally. But for the most part, I was eating whole foods. I was only drinking water. I was, eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And I say this because what I'm gonna explain throughout the rest of the video relies heavily on these foundational habits that I didn't have to do any work to build. More than likely, that is not gonna be the case for you. More than likely, you've spent 20, 30 years building habits around eating certain ways and reconditioning those habits to eat healthy whole foods in correct proportions that are in alignment with the body that you want to create. It's probably going to require a lot of habit shifting and a lot of effort in shifting those habits. Once you can develop a foundation of healthy habits, the rest of the process becomes easy because all you're doing is iterating objectively. You eat a certain number of calories, you have a certain number of energy units, and you either spend or store those energy units proportionally. Now, some people argue that the health of the food does not matter at all. And when it comes to something like strictly weight loss, sure, that could be the case. But that does not determine the overall health of your body, the way that you physically feel, the actual capacity that you have to expend that energy, right? To use those energy points. You can eat junk food in a calorie deficit and lose weight potentially, but you're not gonna have complete control over your energy, and your health overall is not gonna be in a good state. At the same time, food that is of poor nutritional quality could lead to hormone imbalances, which might not actually allow you to lose the weight in the proportion that you want. So all these are really important factors to consider, and I have a free process on tracking your diet using feeling. This is a process that goes beyond just tracking macros. You don't even have to track your macros to get the results from this, and I think it's a really important first step for people that are trying to recondition the way that they think about food, that they interact with food. Just drop a comment below this video if you want access to that tracker, and I will send it to you. But this is one of the first things that I want you to understand, right? For me, I was very lucky to have parents that ingrained in me super positive dietary habits. And so right off the bat, the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is recondition your relationship with food to be one that is emotional, right? One that you seek food when you are frustrated, when you are super happy, essentially this mindless relationship with food, to raising your awareness to the point that you are objectively able to choose healthy foods without becoming emotionally triggered. If this is not an issue for you whatsoever, you are in great shape. If it is an issue for you right now, do not worry. This is one of the best pursuits that you could create for yourself in your life right now. And like I said, I'll throw you that free resource if you think it would be helpful. So phase one for me was just, general activity, generally being active at least once a day. I already had the foundational habits of eating a healthy whole foods diet. I was not plant-based at the time. Of course, I highly recommend that you make the transition to a plant-based diet because it feels awesome. And from the research that I've seen, the experiences that I've had within myself and my clients, of course, that's anecdotal, but people are experiencing incredible physical transformations, rapid increases in strength and overall endurance capacity. And so if that's something that you're interested in, let me know, drop a comment. I'm happy to help you out. And I'm sure that I will make more videos on a plant-based diet in the future. But that's phase one. And the only other thing that I would add to that is what I consider to be phase one is the first point in time that I actually became aware of wanting to create a great physique for myself. And so, like I said, I was already eating healthy. I already had regular exercise throughout the day. But the one thing that I changed was actively trying to create a six-pack. And so what I did was every single night I held 6 inches, and I did that night after night to the point where I was able to hold that 6-inch position for 10 minutes at a time. But otherwise, did I do anything different? Was I working out regularly in the gym? Did I have some super strenuous calisthenics routine? I was literally just holding 6 inches at a time every night before I went to bed. And this is what I told everybody was the secret to developing abs. But what I didn't realize was that not everybody was eating as healthy as I was. A lot of people are consuming significant amounts of sugary drinks, significant amounts of processed food that is very high in sodium and very high in sugar, not consuming a lot of fiber, which is integral for gut health. And those fruits and vegetables are packed with essential vitamins that you need to maintain a healthy body. I promise you, one of the best kept secrets of achieving a 1% physique is just general good health. Your metabolism is more effective. Your capacity for effective muscle gain is more effective. And so if right now you are looking at the quality of your diet, you are looking at the quality of your overall routines, right? Morning, evening routines, health and fitness routines. And your immediate thought is, nah, this stuff is just not really good right now. That is the place to start. Just get the baseline locked down. You don't have to worry about any more advanced stuff. I promise you that will get you 90% of the way there. Phase two is what I call challenge. Now, from the ages of 14 to 19, I was working out in the gym super consistently. I discovered the gym kind of shortly after I discovered my desire to create a six-pack. And so it's ironic, my dad was already forcing me to go to the gym on a regular basis after school, but I wasn't really pushing myself. I didn't really know what I was doing there. I was just there because my dad didn't want me to be at home, slacking off or whatever. But when I discovered that I actually had a desire to create a nice body for whatever reason, originally it was for girls, I started working out every single day, pretty much. Every single day after school, I would go to the gym. Maybe I would wait till 7 or 8 p.m. and then go to the gym. But the gym became a place where I was finding flow. I was finding therapy. I was able to zone out and push my body, and I experienced that neuroepinephrine rush, and I was, feeling really good. And it was something that I ultimately was able to build a habit out of because it became something that really felt good. That being said, I wasn't challenging myself more than I felt comfortable challenging myself, if that makes sense. I wanted to be in the gym, right? Pushing my muscles felt good, but that flex, it felt cool. It was inspiring, and it was one of the first experiences in my life where I actually felt like I was good at something, like I was actually accomplishing something. I'm a person that was a CB student, at my best in public school, and I have many references of teachers that specifically told me that I was a fucking idiot, that I was stupid, and so I was used to having this experience of myself being somebody that was not good at things, that was an underachiever. The gym was the first time in my life where I had control over something that I actually wanted to be good at. It wasn't until I got to college that I met other people, that I had other people directly in my life that were also striving for gains in the gym. And this shifted everything for me because now I had references of what was actually possible. Now I had other people motivating me for whatever reason, whether it was jealousy. There was a degree of jealousy. There was a degree of desire to surpass them. There was a degree of desire to implement the things that they were doing that were working that I didn't know about yet. All of this stuff is what I would consider to be sort of part of the Rolodex of accountability. But it was because I already had that foundation of discipline that I had created for myself. I was able to implement the things that I was learning from these other people. I was able to leverage these emotions that I was experiencing in wanting to pursue the path that they had pursued. It was that discipline that allowed me to do all of that. It was that discipline that allowed me to stay consistent and leverage all of that stuff. So this is sort of a twofold concept, right? Whether it's people that you want to model, whether it's big goals that you have, maybe it's some kind of event that you're striving to participate in. But then the other concept is leveraging systems to challenge yourself. There are infinite examples of this, but I'm going to include the 8 that I have in my article. So progressive overload, gradually increasing the intensity or the weight over time. Tempo changes, altering the speed at which you perform the exercises. High intensity interval training, short bursts of intense exercise followed by brief periods of rest or lower activity. Volume training, increasing the total number of sets and reps to add volume to your workouts. Pre-exhaustion, performing isolated exercises that target specific muscle groups and then moving on to compound exercises. So sort of the reverse of what I do right now, which I'll explain later. Supersets and circuit training, so 2 or more exercises back to back. Rest period manipulation, so adjusting the amount of rest between cardiovascular exercises. And then challenge sets, so at the end of the workout, performing challenge sets where you exercise all the way to failure. These are a couple systems that you can use to challenge yourself. But one of the reasons for all that jabber about other people, right, and modeling other people is because that influence, right, the motivation that you will receive from working out, watching other individuals, more specifically with individuals that you are participating with, that is going to give you so much more information about applicably what can work, how it's supposed to work. And then again, it's going to give you that emotional feedback on why you really want to do this, which is so incredibly important. I know a lot of us kind of fall into these baskets of being more logical or being more emotional, but the reality is all of us have to leverage both of these baskets for ourselves. So now we're getting into the final stage of my personal evolution, which I consider to be ease. I want to start out by talking a little bit about the emotional cycles of change. This is something that I've referenced in my last video, probably other videos before that, but here's why this is important. 1 in 5 people ever try working out. 1 in 10 people actually stay consistent and remain, continuously working out. 1 in 100 of those people will actually reach the results that they want because they stuck to the process. They remain committed. The emotional cycle of change is sort of this peak and valley situation with 2 peaks on either side and a valley in the middle. There's 5 stages. The first stage is uninformed optimism. So you're really excited about working out, this idea that you can become super dope physically. And so you get started, you work out a couple times, you go to the gym for a couple weeks, and you start to realize that your body's not changing that much. You might be incrementally increasing your strength, but physically there are no abs to be seen. There are no biceps to be seen. You start to enter the realm of informed pessimism. You realize this is going to be way harder than you thought. And ultimately, if you continue at that point, you reach the 3rd stage, which is the valley of despair. That's where shit is really difficult. It's hard to find the time in your schedule. It's hard to find the energy to work out. It's hard to stick out this sweaty, painful process of working out. And so you think, maybe there's another way that I can get abs. You see somebody talk about a whole new diet, a whole new workout process, and you think, man, the grass is way greener on that side of the fence. I'm gonna go ahead and go over there. And so you start all the way back at square one of uninformed optimism. Most people are living in this cycle of the first 3 stages over and over and over again. But if you stick it out, you reach stage 4, which is informed optimism. You realize that you just need to stick it out for a longer period of time. You meet a whole lot of people that work out regularly and they love working out. You realize that if you just continue to work out, you'll probably fall in love with working out yourself. And ultimately you reach stage 5, which is success and fulfillment. You get the body that you want, your health dramatically improves. All in all, working out feels awesome, eating healthy feels awesome. All of these things are 100% natural and feel really, really good. And I want to explain this because that's what I believe ease is. When you reach that stage where all of this is easy, it doesn't take you any effort. It is fun. It feels really good. And so, well, now I'm going to give you the exact schedule that I personally use in my life right now. I explained all that plethora of other information because I need you to understand that for me, this is easy. And when you get started, it's not going to be that easy. And I actually don't want you to follow my exact schedule. If it works for you, great. What you need to understand is the schedule that's going to work for you is the one that works for you. It's the one that you actually know you can follow, the one that actually feels good to follow. And you're only gonna get there by going out and experimenting, figuring out what works in your day, figuring out what kind of healthy eating process works for you, figuring out what kind of fitness you enjoy, what kind of evening routine you're gonna be able to maintain. I want you to reach a place of ease. I want this to be easy, to feel natural. But that's only gonna happen if you're willing to experiment. That's only gonna happen if you're willing to cultivate the discipline up front, to do the heavy lifting up front, so to speak. Because if your sleep schedule is super fucked up, it's gonna take a lot of work to fix that. If right now, any kind of working out, whether it's in the gym, whether it's calisthenics, yoga, running, it all feels like absolute shit to you. You're gonna have to fix that first. There's no way around that. And so, like I said, I have a whole bunch of free resources for you to start with, like this video. The feeling tracker. The feeling tracker is one of the most effective tools that you can use up front because it's gonna help you understand what is your emotional relationship with these processes. And then you can use that tracker to start to reframe the emotional relationship that you have with these processes. Use it. Ask me for it, because you gotta ask for it before you can use it. So before I give you the exact schedule, I just need you to understand commitment is the first key. You must be willing to do whatever it takes to get the results for yourself because you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to experiment. You're gonna have to struggle a little bit before you can find that ease. But if you can make that commitment that you are willing to do that you are willing to go through that process, you are going to be able to use every single piece of information that you find as a super effective weapon for getting the results that you want.
Say hello. Hi, dude.
So let's begin with the morning routine, and the first step of any good morning routine is an excellent evening routine. Good sleep and stress management is integral when it comes to effective muscle gain and specifically staying lean while you are gaining that muscle. If you are not getting enough sleep on a regular basis, you are in a perpetual state of stress. A perpetual state of stress is leading to a perpetual state of high cortisol levels. Cortisol is essentially your stress hormone. When you are perpetually stressed, your body is returning to its primitive processes. This means that your body is prioritizing the food that you're consuming for storage, aka fat, rather than effectively metabolizing that food, prioritizing things like vitamin and mineral uptake. You need to start by fixing your sleep hygiene if this is an issue for you right now. I don't recommend getting married to your alarm clock and just saying, I'm gonna fix this by setting a super early time to wake up. This is kind of like the grind mentality that most people go through. And realistically, what you need to do is make sure that you're getting the best possible quality of sleep. That doesn't mean sleep all day, but what it does mean is make sure that you're optimizing at least the hour before you go to bed. My recommendation is to make sure that you are not looking at screens at all an hour before bed. Even better than that, though, would be to adopt a 3-step process as your evening routine, and it kind of looks like this. First, some kind of light movement to release from any tension that you might be holding in your body. I definitely would not recommend a high-intensity weightlifting session, although if you gotta get it in, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm talking like light yoga, walking, but walking without any kind of priority, like definitely not walking your dog. Stretching, qigong is my favorite thing to do. Anything where you are actively setting the intention to release from any tension that you might be holding on to. Especially if you struggle with issues like ADHD, this is gonna be super helpful in helping you get really good quality sleep. The next thing that I recommend is some kind of reflection meditation-based process. Same kind of thing, right? We are clearing our mind. We are giving ourselves permission to release and fall into sleep. And then finally, and this is more of a personal thing, I like to read fantasy books before I go to bed. In my opinion, what this is helping me do is release from, real world issues and dive into an imaginary state. I don't know if there's any science behind like this is prepping you for REM sleep, but I find for me, this really helps me relax, cool down, and fall asleep ultimately. Whatever your process is, I highly recommend building out some kind of evening routine that makes you feel comfortable comfortable, relaxed, any kind of process where you are actively telling your brain, hey, it is time to tune down, it's time to fall asleep. Now, I say that an excellent evening routine is the first step of an excellent morning routine because a morning routine where you are exhausted, where you are tense, where you are stressed because you didn't get enough sleep, it fucking sucks. There are minimal processes that you can do first thing in the morning that are going to help you heal from just terrible rest. And so again, coming back to this alarm concept, so many people tell me, oh man, I would just get better sleep if I set an alarm, if I just woke up with my alarm. Guess what? I wake up every single day between 7:30 and 8 o'clock and I never use an alarm. Why is that? It's because I prioritize getting excellent sleep. And as such, I'm essentially able to influence my mind and saying, look, I have these goals, I have these visions that I want to achieve for myself. It is a priority for me to be able to wake up and be productive. Being exhausted and forcing myself to wake up with an alarm might work the first time, it might work the second time, it might work to a degree over a period of weeks. But over the long term, I'm going to be far sharper. I'm going to have significantly more energetic endurance. I'm going to have more calm, clear focus if I am well rested. So once I get into my morning, like I said, I am simply setting the intention for when I want to wake up. My body naturally wakes me up at that time every single day. You might say, oh, this is some woo-woo mumbo jumbo, but if you haven't actually tried the process, you have no way of saying if it's accurate or not. I have plenty of other examples of clients that I've coached that this has worked wonders for them as well. Once we begin that morning routine, it's the same exact process. Start out with some kind of physical movement. This is just to raise your energy. This is just to help you feel into your body to transition from the sleep state to the woken state. Woke state, baby. Definitely, if you have the energy, hitting a weightlifting session is fair game. But again, in my opinion, all it has to be is something light, something short, 10, 20 minutes maybe. Some light yoga, walking your dog would be a good example here because you're actively trying to raise your energy, but it doesn't have to be complex. I mean, literally just doing some animal movement in your backyard, a little run up and down the block. I promise you, done consistently, you are going to feel so much better from doing this. And bonus points if you can get some sun, right? If you can get some vitamin D, that raises your energy as well. The next thing that I like to do is essentially a mix of reflection and intention setting. For me, it looks like a short meditation session right now. That's just what I'm trying to do for myself. And then a little bit of journaling. The journaling is usually sort of a visualization-esque method. I'm essentially scripting out affirmations that are helping me reprogram my subconscious mind, overcoming limiting beliefs, dictating how I'm going to be positive today. I'll make other videos about really specific morning routines and journaling practices in the future. And if you'd like to see stuff like that, drop a comment below and let me know. But again, a lot of this is kind of stream of consciousness, getting the mumbo jumbo out of my brain and putting it somewhere concrete. It's like I'm respecting myself. I am saying to my brain, hey, these thoughts are important enough for us to put somewhere concrete. And thus I am giving myself permission to release from those thoughts and create space for new opportunities. Then I basically just take some time to map out my day, put things in my calendar, get specific about what objectives need to be reached. Mostly with this, the benefit is to make sure that I am making progress in my business. But if your primary goal is to see a physical transformation for yourself, this is just as beneficial. Writing out, when are you going to work out? Writing out, when are you going to meal prep? When are you actually going to eat your food? Because for a lot of us, the tendency is to undereat.
So let's talk about the first meal of the day. And I specifically follow an intermittent fasting routine. I've been following this since about 2016 and it works really, really well for me. There's a few reasons that I do this. The science shows us that once we burn the glucose out of our bloodstream, our body prioritizes burning fat instead as the primary energy source. Glucose is the simple form of carbohydrates, which is your body's primary energy source. And so when we start our day out with some light exercise and we are pairing that with fasting, our body is burning that glucose out of our bloodstream, thus transitioning us over to burning fat as our primary energy source. And so essentially we are putting our body into a state of ketosis. There's a lot of other science behind intermittent fasting, increasing HGH production or human growth hormone, helps you build muscle, improves in fat burning generally. There's a lot of stuff here. For you particularly, if burning fat, if just losing weight is one of your primary goals, intermittent fasting is a very easy way to get yourself to restrict calories naturally. It makes it a whole lot easier in general to eat less calories throughout the day. Less calories, less weight gained. I have generally followed a pretty traditional approach to what the first meal should be. I generally steer clear of super high protein targets. A lot of people are living in this 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight state. One of the leading vegan bodybuilders of our generation, Nimai Delgado, said, the science has shown him that you only need 1 gram of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. And when you do the numbers on that, that is significantly less protein than 1 gram per pound of body weight. But it makes way more sense. Like, why do we need protein to fuel our fat? Why do we need protein to fuel the water weight? And when we acknowledge that the vast majority of protein dominant foods also are significantly high in fat, eating copious amounts of this stuff simply because society in general has told us this is what we need to do is kind of ridiculous. I have not found that to be necessary at all, but what I will say is following that guideline of making your first meal the biggest, most substantial meal of the day is indeed something that makes the day significantly easier as far as strategy. If you can find space in your day for that first meal and make it a big meal that takes you a good amount of time to eat, the rest of your day is going to be so much easier. You don't don't have to spend nearly as much time cooking and eating, especially if you've already meal prepped, which is excellent. You don't have to spend as much time eating. Every single meal that I eat is ideally following the Canadian Food Guideline. This is saying basically that half of the meal is dominated by fruits and veggies, and then the other half of the meal is split up between protein and fat dominant foods and healthy whole carbohydrates. Now for me personally, this meal is not going to be just one single meal. It's probably going to be about an hour of eating overall. Because my caloric target overall has been somewhere around 3,000 calories every single day, I am trying to get at least like 1,500 calories in that meal. This gets easier and easier. If you are trying to eat in mass, if your primary goal right now is to gain weight, this is a skill, right? It takes time, it takes practice, and you will get there over time. But that's why I'm saying, start out your day with that big meal. It gets it out of the way, and then it frames you for the rest of your meals being significantly easier to consume. If right now your primary goal is weight loss and you've struggled generally with being overweight, you're probably listening to this like, what the fuck are you talking about? What kind of struggle is that? It's a struggle for you to eat a lot. And so look, that's why I'm adding the nuance that this is my personal method, right? This is the method that has worked for me. This is the journey that I have been on that has led me to this place right here, right now. There is one more piece of information that I want to add for you, and this is purely anecdotal. I interviewed a nutritionist once who told me that if you start your day off by eating your vitamin and mineral supplements followed by some water, you are going to uptake those vitamins and minerals so much easier than you otherwise would if you ate it with food. Some of the research that I've done following that up says that that's kind of iffy information. There's not necessarily a lot of conclusive data to show that actually eating food with your vitamin and mineral supplements makes you not uptake as much. What I will say is this: for those of you that start your day out by eating a piece of fruit, you will know just how good it physically feels to consume that piece of fruit. Probably because to a degree your body is dehydrated and fruit is packed with water. Maybe there is some evidence to show that your body is deprived of essential vitamins and minerals, and so the first time that you consume them in the day, you can physically feel that difference. But what I will say to you is to go and try it, right? See if you can notice how your body feels. And if you are in fact able to fast up until that point in the middle of the day, I can almost guarantee that you are going to feel something. In fact, drop a comment below if you have any idea what I'm talking about, or if this is the first time that you've experimented with it. Drop a comment and let me know how it goes for you. But that's the first meal, right? Bottom line, I'm eating super healthy. I'm keeping everything as healthy as possible, and I am eating almost directly in alignment with that Canadian Food Guide. And it's setting me up with plenty of healthy calories to fuel my day, and it's making it much easier to eat smaller meals after that meal, after the biggest meal. The rest of my meals are following a pretty similar structure. I mean, every single meal is dominated by healthy fruits and vegetables, and then is matched the other 50%, about 25% healthy carbs, and then 25% healthy fats and proteins. This is where I want to provide some insight into what I think has been perhaps my biggest drawback in my own fitness process in general. And that is having an approach to getting my calories in that is more or less based on guessing. If right now you struggle with not eating enough, right? I come from a past where I struggled with not eating enough. And we'll talk about how to deal with overeating if that's what you struggle with primarily. But what I would say is that I basically just tried to push myself. I basically just tried to challenge myself to eat as much as I possibly could. That's why for me, eating the first meal as the biggest meal was the easiest. And then all I tried to do was just continuously eat throughout the day, at least every 2 hours. What I would have done differently, and what I advise you to do. If you struggle with undereating, one of the best things that you can start to do is to track your calories. Create systems that raise your awareness around how much you eat throughout the day. This will help you build generally that habit that you are mindful of how much you're eating. You are trying to eat more. And so not only will the systems give you the feedback of exactly how much you're eating, but it's reinforcing that habit to yourself that this is a priority. This transformation is genuinely something that you are willing to put the work in to make happen. If you struggle with overeating, it's almost the exact same process. The more systems that you can build to raise the awareness around what you're eating, the better. The likelihood is that you have a more or less unconscious relationship with food right now. You experience emotional highs and lows, both of which drive you to unconsciously eat. Now, I have a free resource that I call the Feeling Tracker, which essentially asks you to track the way that you feel when you're eating. It's not asking you to track your macros, it's just asking you to track, what state of mind were you in? Can you even start to acknowledge what state of mind that you are in when you eat? This kind of raising awareness will help you take control of your diet. And just with this awareness, you will find that you naturally start to eat less. I mean, you've set the goal, you know what outcome that you want for yourself. That is what your best self wants. And the more that you can be aware, right, the more that you can put yourself
yourself consciously in control of your own mind, the more you are living as your best self. And that best self will naturally start to take the reins, right? It will naturally start to dictate how much you want to eat. But the bottom line for me is the process has just been to eat meals that are slightly smaller than the first meal, but of the exact same quality. If you want like sample meal plans or some kind of examples, drop a comment below and I'll make a video in the future. But I do think that that idea of tracking, right? That idea of building systems to be aware of how much you're eating in alignment with your goals, that is one of the best steps that you can follow. That is one of the most powerful steps that you can follow, one that I more or less neglected at the beginning. I know that if I had built that habit of tracking my diet, number one, it wouldn't have been so much harder later on when I actually did invest in those skills, but I would have reached the results that I wanted much faster. I do want to add a couple technical details here, which is that when you eat some quick carbs before you work out, right, you have energy to use when you work out. The science behind how your body prioritizes burning muscle for energy versus burning fat for energy versus burning carbs for energy is a little bit complicated, but generally you will find that you feel stronger, you feel more awake and aware when you eat a little bit of quick carbohydrates before you work out. I'm talking like simple sugars, so for a lot of people it's like Pop-Tarts or like Rice Krispies, something like that. Not a lot of them, right? Just one, maybe even just half of one. And then one of the other things to think about is you want to have some kind of substantial meal after you work out, especially after doing heavy resistance training. This is just making sure that you have some protein to recoup the muscle that was torn up during the workout, and to make sure that you're eating some complex carbohydrates for energy so that your body can use the protein that you eat to prioritize building muscle, rather than having to further break down your muscles to recoup your energy.
Okay, so the last section of this video is going to be all about the fitness process that got me the results that I have. Again, I highly encourage you to check out the article below this video because it talks about the phases that I went through. I didn't follow the exact same fitness process for all 14 years that I've been doing this. Originally, the only fitness that I was doing was basically 6 inches every single night. I was holding a 6-inch hold position in bed every single night for like 10 minutes. Granted, I did have other activity in my lifestyle. I was very active as a kid, and so that already consistent high caloric burn paired with that exercise every single night, that's really all I needed to do originally to build a six-pack. But once I discovered the gym, once I discovered consistent working out in a weight room, the process that I followed over the years has more or less boiled down to the following. And keep in mind, there has been a lot of variation, but this is the fundamental. So every workout in the weight room is at least 45 minutes. I'm not gonna say timing matters as much as challenge, because challenging yourself is really the key with this stuff. But having a large amount of time in the gym gives me that space that I'm able to challenge myself. I'm always starting out with some kind of warm-up. I'm following that warm-up with some kind of stretch. These are gonna vary widely workout to workout. This is 100% because I'm listening to my body. I'm using my intuition to understand, what do I really need out of this workout? What do I really need out of this stretch session, out of this warm-up? Once I finished 8 to 10 minutes of stretching and warming up, I'm moving on to my first exercise. For me, that first exercise is almost always a core lift. It's either the squat, the bench press, or the deadlift. I'm doing 5 to 7 sets of this exercise, and I'm doing it in a way that the first couple sets are like warm-up sets. I'm getting myself safe, comfortable, ready to do the exercise, ready to really push myself with the exercise. And then following those warm-up sets, I'm doing challenge sets of low rep, high weight. Essentially like 1 to 3 reps just so I can push myself, get that maximum power. And then after 4 or 5 sets like this, I'm doing 1 burnout set. Now, I'm a big fan of the classic bodybuilder Mike Mensler, and he talks about how if you're really gonna challenge yourself, if you're really gonna prioritize building muscle, you have to be doing burnout sets. The idea here is that the more fatigued your muscle is, the more energy is required to do each additional rep. The more challenged you are, the more rebuilding potential you have. And so if you want to be building the maximum possible muscle, you have to be burning yourself out. So after these sets of the core lift, I'm going to do 4 to 5 additional accessory exercises. All of these exercises are probably following either a push or a pull strategy. If I'm starting out with a deadlift, I'm probably doing a pull day. If I'm starting out with the deadlift, I'm probably doing a pull day primarily. If I'm starting out with the squat or the bench press, I'm probably doing a push day primarily. Each accessory exercise, I'm probably doing 3 to 4 sets. But this time it's following the 10 to 15 rep scheme with the idea that I'm really just trying to burn myself out as fast as possible. I don't even have to do all 4 sets. I could just do 2 sets. I could just do 1 set if I really challenge myself. And recently, more and more, I have been leaning towards that methodology of just doing 1 set if possible. If I know that I've pushed myself as hard as I
possibly can. If I've burned out as much as I possibly can, ideally I'm doing it in just one set. I highly recommend that you look into the philosophies of Mike Mentzler because the way that he thinks is just genius when it comes to building muscle. The idea is to dig enough of a hole that you've built that little hill on top, which is the muscle that you gain. If all you have to do is refill the hole to get that muscle hump on top, do you really need to dig that hole deeper? No, you just need to work the muscle enough that you're getting that rebuilding potential. And because all exercise costs energy, right? And if we're trying to build muscle, we're not trying to exert as much energy as possible. We're trying to maintain as much energy as possible while still building muscle. So again, I'm choosing 4 to 5 accessory exercises that I feel are complementary to that original core exercise, that core lift, should I say. The goal is for them to follow the original movement scheme of the core lift. So either a pulling movement or a pushing movement. Now for me, most of this is completely intuitive at this point. And so what I recommend you do is build out a list of all of the weight room exercises that you're aware of and see if you can categorize them in relationship to the original core lift. Push-ups or lateral raises are pushing movements, and so it makes sense for them to come subsequently to a bench press. Barbell rows or lat pull downs are pulling movements, and so it makes sense for them to come subsequent to a deadlift. The idea is that you're doing 4 to 5 of these movements, again, subsequent to the original lift, and pushing yourself as much as possible. One of the things that I highly recommend that you do is shoot for 1 PR in one of your exercises with every single workout. That's right, hit a PR in every single workout. This is a great way to guarantee that you are challenging yourself, to track that you are challenging yourself. And if you follow this methodology, I guarantee that you are going to see fast and epic results. So if it would be helpful for you, I'm gonna go ahead and put together an example workout plan. There is already one in the article linked below, but I'm gonna build out a new one that you can get if you send me a DM on Instagram and just say, hey, I want the workout plan. I wanna give you guys as much actionable examples as possible. I know this video was chock full of philosophy and more or less some specific examples, but I'm a big fan of pairing the philosophical with the actionable. And so whatever resources I can get you, whatever would be helpful for you to reach that next level, please let me know. You can drop a comment here, you can send me a DM on Instagram, that's where you can actually get the resources from me. But I'm here to provide as much value as I can and get you that value through my perpetual ranting and raving. So let me know what you guys need, like this video, drop a comment, hit that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell so you know when my videos come out, and yeah, you got this. Peace, love, namaste, I'll talk to you guys later. Shh.